Hi everyone, it's Tracy Lynn.
And Peter Murray. Good morning, Tracy.
Hi there, Peter. It's actually good afternoon now, time is marching on.
Good afternoon, Tracy. Sorry for, well, thanks for correcting me as usual. But Tracy, you have a visitor for us, or a guest.
Absolutely, a very distinguished guest, actually.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to our guest.
Yes, and he is the CEO from Bankymoon. His name is Lorien Gamaroff, and welcome to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Lorien.
Hi.
Lorien, you know what? You are a mover and a shaker in South Africa, and I'm sure worldwide as well. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Bitcoin?
Sure. Well, I'm a software engineer, so in 2010, I remember stumbling onto a blog, or I can't remember exactly where, but it was all about this new currency, and as a software developer, it was interesting. So I just heard about it, and I thought, well, that sounds cool. I've been developing payment systems and things forever, and it was just novel and interesting. And then in 2011, suddenly it exploded with the news about this underground website selling all these dodgy things at Silk Road, and the price started going really high. And at that stage, I had a few bitcoins just to play with, but then I thought, oh, hang on, this could be big. Let me start telling my friends about it and buying some more, and became kind of infatuated with it. And since then, for what's now 5 years, I've been trying to convince the world that this is a real thing. It's going to change how people interact and how we transact. Especially being next door to Zimbabwe. I'm actually from Zimbabwe, so being so aware of how bad things can get in terms of money, and thinking of Bitcoin as the solution that will solve all these things. Kind of being on this religious mission to bring it to the world and convince people that it's real and worthwhile and looking into and investing. And then 2 years ago, founded Bankymoon because suddenly now it was all about blockchain, and nobody understood it, and I thought maybe I can add value in terms of blockchain. So for 5 years, just being obsessed with it and sharing information and just trying to spread the good news, I guess.
How would you say, where are we in the stage now of that news spread? Because, we're always looking at the different people adopting Bitcoin and adopting the blockchain. And what is your experience in this area? Where would you say we are on this adoption curve and also the acceptance curve?
So there's two distinct things here. There's the decentralized currency Bitcoin, and then there's the technology blockchain. And they are definitely on two different curves if you're thinking about the hype cycle. Bitcoin went through a very typical hype cycle shape, where there was that technology trigger and then the peak of inflated expectations, which I think was reached in 2013 when the price went to almost $1,200. And then since then, it's been going down, and now the last year it's been going up. So there's a very distinct hype cycle curve, and I actually think it represents where we are in terms of acceptance. I think more and more people are looking at Bitcoin as an alternate asset class, something that has real intrinsic value because it's so useful as a remittance tool, and has a store of value because it's limited. So I think we are now headed into that what's called the plateau of productivity, where you're going to see more and more businesses accepting it, and more wallets and that sort of thing, and also more and more investment. If you think about India and Zimbabwe and Venezuela, all these currencies that are in trouble, Naira, I think people are going to start now, and I think they are thinking of it seriously as a store of value. Now, the blockchain, however, I think is right at the crest of that hype cycle. And I think, a lot of people have been saying that 2016 was the year of the proof of concept, and then 2017 is going to be the year of production implementations. I think not. I think there's going to be there is already a pullback in investment with blockchain. With the businesses I've been involved with, companies who are trying to implement blockchain, they're becoming rather cynical, realizing that it's not just going to be this thing that suddenly replaces how they do things and makes things better, cheaper, quicker, faster. So I think that kind of plunge into the trough of disillusionment is about to happen. And I think there's going to be a lot of institutional investors, a lot of companies realizing, okay, it's not all that great. And I think that's because of the whole point about a blockchain. The core principle is decentralization. So if you are thinking as a business trying to take blockchain and privatize it and control it and make it do things that it's not supposed to do, like what Accenture is trying to do with editable blockchain, I think those are that's the way reality is going to kick in. And people are going to realize, hang on, blockchain cannot be owned in a way. It has to be decentralized for it to be valuable. And I think that's where we're headed.
To explain to our viewers, sorry, Tracy, would you compare it to a time when all companies were starting to develop intranets and then finally realized that they should just all be on the internet? Is that the same type of scenario?
Yes, I think so. Although there are still intranets, and they do have value within organizations, and so it might be the case that within organizations, or maybe between organizations that have relationships, they might create maybe some kind of version of a blockchain. If you think about the company R3, they created Corda, which is a blockchain flavored technology. It's not actually a blockchain. And so maybe some principles around blockchain will be used privately. But, again, if it's a blockchain, it's, pure blockchain is a decentralized technology. So, again, it might just be sort of a blockchain flavored implementations that are built privately in organizations.
And of course, the most important thing is that companies or businesses need to talk to each other. So, what's the point of building something that's a standalone that can't take any information from anyone else?
That's right, exactly. So it makes no sense if you have the only fax machine. And this is where the problems are being seen. With that consortium of banks, Goldman Sachs has pulled out. I think Santander. Because they're just finding it so difficult to get along. These organizations are competitors, and it's very difficult to try and collaborate on something, that where they actually have to have a conversation, because they'd rather just, try and outcompete the other guy instead of getting along. And that's where the problems are being felt.
Peter, did you want to say something?
Oh, sorry, I was waiting for you to ask your question.
Oh, okay. It's actually a little bit difficult when we're doing a three-way. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to know about, you are based you say you're Zimbabwean and you're based in South Africa. What is your involvement in, sub-Saharan Africa in terms of education or business building or whatever you do?
Sure. Well, just to clarify, I was born in Zimbabwe, but I was moved here when I was a baby, so I'm a naturalized South African citizen. Although, very tied to that country from a, spiritual point of view, I guess. So the question is, what is my perception of the adoption?
Well, I wanted to know, what is your involvement and what are you doing about educating people, in terms of Bitcoin and blockchain, just all the information around them? Because obviously there are so many people who this is like alien stuff to them. They don't understand.
Yes, I know it's very hard to understand. Yeah, so I co-founded the Blockchain Academy about a year and a half ago, with the specific intention of training private people and corporates, about the technology, what it is and how it works, just to demystify it. I felt like, if the more people understand it, then we can move forward and start building valuable things around it. So put a lot of emphasis on training, and I still do that. Just came back from Harare in Zimbabwe now, where we had a 2-day summer school, a blockchain summer school, and spent 2 days just sharing people what it is, where did it come from, what it means, why you can trust it. because I would like to see adoption, and when you're there, you don't have to spend more than 2 seconds with somebody telling them about this decentralized currency, and their eyes light up. Obviously, they have a very bad experience with their financial system, and they just are desperate for an alternative. So very important is to try and spread that message as far and as wide as possible. So, I do a lot of that, even if it's on a personal basis or going into little groups and just trying to demystify the whole thing. But I think that it's going to be, right now, people, when you talk about Bitcoin to people, they want to understand how it works. The internet, most people use it and love it, but don't understand how it works. The thing about Bitcoin, though, is that if you're going to be putting money into it, a lot of people want to know how does it tie together? And unfortunately, because it's a technology, it's difficult for most people to grasp, as well as this idea of a currency that isn't issued or governed by a central bank or a government. Even though the paper money that we have today, our rands and dollars, there is no intrinsic value there. It's just our faith that whatever, whoever's running the show has a grasp on things and is doing it right. To try and tell people that Bitcoin is money. That is the first thing you have to try and do. You have to, when I speak to people about Bitcoin and how it works, usually the first half of the conversation is what is money, and giving them a history lesson. So we talk about there's certain properties that make something money. It must be a medium of exchange and a unit of account. In other words, something that measures value of things. It must be divisible and durable and a store of value. So you kind of go on this whole lesson on what is money and what has been money throughout history and why has it been money and why has gold always been the best sort of money. And then starting from that basis, you then will say, all right, now imagine gold. All the things that make gold, except now one extra property, and that is it's digital. Just to try and let them cross that divide from this very abstract conceptual thing into now we have a digital version of gold. I think most people don't realize gold is money. We think that paper is money, but for thousands of years, gold has been money. We've forgotten that. Thanks to Nixon, I guess.
Yes.
And so now it's we have to go back to that and realize this is what makes something sound money. What is sound money, and why Bitcoin is now considered sound money. So that's the kind of process that you've got to go through. But you try and avoid the technical stuff, because when you talk about mining and networks, it becomes very crazy and confusing. And I think one day we won't have to do that. Explain to people the technical things.
I think, Lorien, that day will come when people can actually use it in conjunction with the current banking technology. In other words, if you can go to an ATM, a normal bank ATM, and go withdraw Bitcoin, or if you can actually use a prepaid card or a debit card that's linked to your Bitcoin account, then it becomes much more real for people, because they can then use it like anywhere, but also in a way they've understood before. I see that you are looking actually to launch your own prepaid cards.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about these? And I would be interested to know if they are going to be in the local currency of the countries you're going to launch them in.
Yes, so my focus now is to put the Bitcoin into the hands of people. The only way currently to do it is to access an online exchange, and those are very complicated. If you've ever been on a Bitcoin exchange, you know what I mean. Lots of charts and numbers and things, and most people won't buy or acquire Bitcoin that way. So I want to try and reach that 80% of Africans who are unbanked and don't have access to those sorts of services. And the idea of a prepaid voucher or card, to me, is just the most basic. If you're going to Pick and Pay or a retailer, there's usually iTunes cards or Android Play. So I want to be putting Bitcoin cards there. And what happens, the way it works is that people can go and buy a value, so that they can go there and there'll be 100 Rand a prepaid voucher, and then I'm building a Bitcoin wallet for a mobile device. And what you can do is you can when you buy it from the retailer, it gets activated, and then you can go and scan in that card, and it will then at that point. So let's say you buy 100 rands worth of 100 rand Bitcoin voucher. 2 days later, you want to now redeem those Bitcoins. What you'll do is you'll scan in that number, and it will at that point go and purchase 100 rands worth of Bitcoins from an exchange and load your mobile device with those Bitcoins. So it's at the redemption period that we then actually go and make the purchase. So we have your 100 rands worth of value, and we go and purchase that off the exchange for you at the current rate. So if you're buying it in Zimbabwe and you're using dollars, you're buying $50 worth of Bitcoin, it'll purchase $50 from the local exchange. So that's how the prepaid card will work.
Sounds amazing.
That is amazing. So it's more like almost like the store gift cards that you get at the moment, like the Amazon cards or the Google cards or something like this.
Exactly.
Okay. Have you been in contact with any local banks that might be interested in adding a banking product to this, or not really?
Banks are not interested in Bitcoin at all. In fact, when you speak to bankers, especially in public, they're always very coy. Even maybe in private. I mean, there are people after all. They might be interested in Bitcoin. From an institutional perspective, no organization or corporate is going to, at this stage, entertain Bitcoin. It's all about blockchain, because they want to remain politically correct. And, it's a funny space. Although I engage the Reserve Bank, in fact, I'm going to be seeing them tomorrow. They are going to want to use the products that I'm creating right now as a case study. Because at this stage, they know Bitcoin exists. It's not a big deal right now, but they can see a potential future where it does become a big deal, and they're going to want to have some kind of oversight or governance or control over what goes on there. But at this stage, it's all theorizing. So they're quite happy to have a company like mine that they can sort of be dragged along with, and then as I do these things, they can see whenever there's a red flag that gets raised, they can step in and determine, how things should go. Now, I'm happy to do that with them, because I don't want to go ahead and create all these cool things, and then suddenly the Reserve Bank notices me and then says, hey, that's not right. You're allowing people to buy Bitcoins and there's no KYC or anything like that. And then they shut me down. So I want to bring them along with me, so I can, be sure that everything I do is kind of legit, and I can kind of push those boundaries along with them. And also kind of, in a way, their stamp of approval, not that they would ever give me one, but, just to give customers and people out there the sense that this is legit, and it's not, they're not dealing with the dark web or enabling terrorism or all those things that I think hold people back when it comes to Bitcoin. So definitely Sorry, I was just saying from a banking perspective that they definitely not at the Bitcoin point. They're more on the blockchain side.
I agree with you. Although what you said in the beginning is that people are going back, starting to getting back to the point that the actual killer application of the blockchain is Bitcoin. People are actually realizing that.
Exactly.
I was at a blockchain event in London last week, and it's the first time I've actually heard bankers say the word Bitcoin. So you're right, but I think they're starting to realize that they can't just ignore it, and especially in Europe, the Swiss government is very keen. I mean, they've got Bitcoin machines now at rail stations in Switzerland, and in the canton of Zug, you can actually pay your council tax with Bitcoin and stuff like this. So,
great.
It depends also, your government and where you are. But you're right, regulation is going to be key to this, because I think once they start regulating something, it does give it a certain feeling of respectability as well, because you have to accept something to regulate it.
Yes, exactly. And as I've said with the Reserve Bank, either they can opt for no control, where they don't allow business like mine to flourish and innovate. Because if they allow my company to exist, then they can at least have some measure of control. They can insist that I capture some information, or I report on cards that are redeemed. But if they don't allow businesses like mine to flourish, then all they're going to do is drive it underground, and then they will have no control whatsoever. So that's the point that they're at right now.
Oh, well,
I think they appreciate that.
I think governments have gone past the point that they are looking at a ban, because that would be working backwards. I think they're much more, because your developing countries are looking at regulation. Your developed countries, I think all countries will follow that lead. Maybe you'll have one or two exceptions like China or Russia that might go a different way. But I think in general, most countries will look at regulating Bitcoin, not banning it. I think we're past that point already. Just in terms of you're going to have the cards and stuff, the merchants, how are they going to accept Bitcoin, and how would they then get their Bitcoin back to fiat to actually go back into the system?
Yes, that's now the other thing that we are working on. I mean, this is something that I've been expecting. I don't know why it's taken so many years, but I'm now going to put a lot of energy into getting merchants, and I think there's a merchant a chain that we are potentially going to be taking on, a coffee chain. But the way that it works is that if you ever used a SnapScan or something like that, there's usually a QR code on the counter. So what we do is we are going to assign addresses to the retailers, and then we hold that in our system. And then as soon as the customer makes the payment, we detect the payment on that address. We know that it belongs to that retailer. So we, at that point, convert the Bitcoins into local currency. And then we settle, we send a payment notification to the retailer, and we settle then in rands or local currency with the retailer later on in the day or later on that week. So the retailer is not going to accept Bitcoins. They just have their Q code. They're available on the counter, and then we handle the exchanging and the payment notification. Okay. So it's all transparent.
So you're gonna provide a back-end solution to the retailers. So you're gonna have to have this means you're gonna have to build a significant infrastructure, because this is really not going to be peer-to-peer from customer to merchant directly. You're going to create a in-between company, which is, I think, the way that Bitcoin will develop eventually. Is because that's very interesting to hear this. What else have you got up your sleeve that you can tell us, or are you not allowed to talk about everything yet?
No, I'm happy to.
Tell us more about your wallet, because I see you actually you can purchase electricity, airtime, all sorts of things from your wallet.
Yes, there's a lot of Bitcoin wallets out there, and BitX, they're a local exchange, and they've got a good wallet. They'll also allow you to buy electricity, not electricity, airtime. But one of the things that I see, I look at all these wallets, and they're all built by Bitcoiners and engineers, and I don't think that there's anything really that's very user-friendly out there in the market. And so, I just feel like there's a gap to create a Bitcoin wallet that my grand could use. So I'm trying to use all the sort of principles from viral apps like WhatsApp, those types of things that make it very easy for people to get in, and without much technical expertise. So what happens with my wallet is that you as soon as you download the wallet and you install it, it goes to your address book, and it notices who else has the wallet, and immediately you're connected, so you don't have to know their addresses. The address part of Bitcoin is a bit of a barrier for most people. This long number or this QR code. So what I do is I make that invisible, and as soon as you install the wallet, and I install the wallet, and you're in my address book, you're gonna appear in my wallet address book, and all I need to do is just choose you, put in an amount, and the store value will be Bitcoin, but you're always going to transact in local currency. So if you want to send me 100 Rand, you can just choose me from your book, write in 100 Rand, and send the 100 Rands worth of Bitcoin to me. So you don't have to know my address. You don't have to know what 100 Rand is in Bitcoin. You can just immediately do that. And then also from the wallet, you can put in a meter number and buy electricity, put in your mobile, or yours or anybody mobile number, buy airtime. And then also we'll have other things like buying iTunes cards and other sorts of things. We're trying to bundle in as much as possible into the wallet, so you don't have to hope that your metering company or whoever accepts coin. We do all that for you, and just to make it again easy, because right now people have Bitcoin, and a lot of the problem is that what do they do with it once they've got it? They can send Bitcoin to somebody else, but they can't buy anything with it. So the merchant side of things, and then also the integrated wallet side of things, building payments into the wallet for those sorts of things.
Lorien, one of the biggest concerns, especially these days for consumers, are the issue of security and cyber attacks and hacking and things like this. What are your thoughts on these, and how are you going to handle that in your business?
Yeah, that is a big problem, and I've always wanted to go away from the approach of holding private keys. We see these exchanges get hacked. I mean, it's so difficult to make an absolutely perfectly secure exchange, and so I don't want to have the responsibility of holding keys. So we have started from the approach where the device holds the keys. You can back it up with using a 10-word mnemonic, so, a kind of brain wallet. And it's up to the user to write those 10 words down. And if their device is lost, or if something happens, then they can just go and regenerate their private key using that 10-word thing. So we just did that because we don't want to have the responsibility of holding private keys and then getting hacked, and then having those issues that these other exchanges have had. So unfortunately, it does now put the responsibility on the holder, and there's always a spectrum of security. Either it becomes the user's responsibility entirely, or you put the responsibility onto the exchange. Like, for example, BitX, they keep everybody's Bitcoins. And that means if you forget your username or password or something, then they can go and reset that for you. And so it's actually a lot easier, to give the responsibility over to somebody else, but then you now don't have control. So you're always on that spectrum from 100% control and responsibility to, but inconvenience, to 0% control, but 100% convenience. And then you have to kind of, see where you fit there. And just at this stage, I'm going to put responsibility onto the user, and until, I can feel confident that our systems can handle, private keys securely.
Well, actually, you know what? It is the responsibility of the user anyway. We are too giving. And for years, we've actually handed over the responsibility to banks. And I mean, they can hack too. I mean, it's not a Bitcoin thing.
Yeah, sorry, Tracy, I didn't get that last bit.
I just said that it is actually the responsibility, in my opinion, of the user, because you need to take control of your own money. We've actually for years and years and years handed over the responsibility to the banks or to a third party to look after our own money. And here there's an opportunity to look after your own.
Yes, although unfortunately, for people who are sophisticated relatively and, can shoulder that responsibility, that's fine. But, what we've seen is that a lot of people are actually would rather have somebody else look after it for them if it means that they have the convenience of not having to remember their secret codes or passwords. And so, I think it'll always be the case where some people want to do it all themselves, and then the others are happy for somebody else to do it for them if they don't have to now worry about any of that. So, you'll get all these different types and everybody in between.
Well, also, I suppose the market that you're trying to reach are these people who are not that sophisticated. and need to be coaxed into using Bitcoin. And certainly, I think your prepaid card sounds like a fantastic idea.
I think so. I think, you know, if we're going to reach Africa, then that's the only way to do it. You know, it isn't any other option really, and that's what we want. We want to get it into the hands of as many people as possible. But yeah, the security, absolutely. That is, you know, when dealing with, you know, if you're going to be your own bank, you know, you're going to have to, you know, think carefully about how to protect people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Peter, do you have anything else to add? Lorien, is there any other juicy nuggets you want to share with us?
Yes. So, okay. So Zimbabwe, that's definitely going to be ground zero, I think. I know it's a cliche when people talk about Bitcoin, they talk about Zim, but that is absolutely 100% going to be the ground zero of this new world that we're entering into. But also Mozambique also came back from Mozambique and you know, their banks are failing. You know, 2 banks have failed, and bank solvency has become a household term now, even to people who never thought about banking. All the banks are writing out notices about how they have money and they're still safe and don't worry. In fact, I think I just heard that they're offering people very high interest rates, savings rates. You know, if you keep your money in the bank, you know, you can get, I think somebody said 30% or something. So they're trying everything in their power to make sure people keep their money in the banks and there's no bank run. But it's not working. And I met with some people in Mozambique with people who have a lot of financial backing, and they're very eager now to develop their own Bitcoin exchange. So I'll be involved there, building a Mozambican Bitcoin exchange there. They do a lot of business with Japan, and they keep getting requests from these countries to you know, do they accept Bitcoin, and also people just wanting to put their money into something safe, not Meticash. So anyway, that's going to be another thing that we will start working on in the new year, a Mozambican Bitcoin exchange, and then hopefully other countries that aren't being serviced by other exchanges. So that's coming soon as well.
Very, very interesting. I mean, sorry, Tracy.
No. I was also just going to, that is very interesting, but I was also going to just talk a little bit about and ask you a little bit about the Bitcoin price in various countries. I think Zimbabwe are also paying a huge sum of money for Bitcoin. As we've seen, India, you know, since the demonetization, they've actually, their price went up to past about $900 odd. And I know that Zimbabwe is also paying a lot.
Yes, they are paying a lot because there's very little available. If you go onto the exchange, you'll see that, you know, there's very little for sale. You know, the order book is very balanced on the buy side, not on the sale side. But also, you know, Nigeria recently the price went crazy, but I don't think that's because. I don't think it's entirely because of people wanting Bitcoin just for Bitcoin's sake. I have a feeling that MMM, in fact, is playing a role in Nigeria, because, you know, the price, I think, was up to $1,200 recently.
Oh my goodness.
And I was talking to a friend of mine in Zim, and because he was very involved in MMM in the olden days in Zim, because it was big in Zimbabwe, unfortunately, and the price of Bitcoin went crazy because of it. And we noticed that in Nigeria, MMM, now the MMM local website or whatever it is, has now more user traffic than Facebook in Nigeria. And obviously MMM has something to do where if you use Bitcoin, then you get a better deal, or you get more of the MMM bucks or whatever it is that they sell. So I think MMM is playing a big role in the price in Nigeria. Because if you look at the price in Nigeria, you'll see it's ridiculous. It's, you know, I think if not $1,200, it's very close to it.
And certainly in South Africa, I mean, Triple M is also rough in South Africa. So,
yeah,
you know, I would imagine it's probably a huge amount of Bitcoin in South Africa is going into these schemes.
Yeah, I know it's terrible, and I think the best thing that can happen is people get burnt sooner rather than later, and then I think they did, in fact, in South Africa. I think there was a big burning that happened, but as soon as it happens, the better, and then we'll see the natural price take off. I don't like to see the price being affected by MMM. I'd rather have it organic. India, for example, that people are thinking about, they have no choice there, trying to get out of their currency. But long term, the price, I still think it's crazy low, and I don't think there'll certainly be a short term choppiness, but if you go over the long term, the price is going nowhere but up, for so many reasons, so many fundamental reasons. A lot of times when I chat to people about the price, Bitcoin isn't going to be adopted, and because it's because of its technology. In fact, Bitcoin is an inferior technology compared to the existing system. If you think about Visa, it's the amount of transactions per second and all that sort of thing. But it's an alternative to the system. And there's this perfect storm brewing. When we look at all these crazy situations, financial situations around the world with negative interest rates and confiscating high-value notes and inflation, there's this people are being pushed into Bitcoin. It's not so much that Bitcoin is attracting people. It's like it's an escape. It's this pressure valve because of bad monetary policy around the world. So I definitely think that it's at $750 around about whatever it is now. I think it's crazy cheap. In fact, there's a very interesting infographic. If you find it, I'll send it to you if I can find it as well. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where it talks about all the way people have their money. So if people put it in offshore bank accounts, or if they put it into gold, if they put it into investment funds or something, the infographic shows if very conservative amounts, like 1% of the money that people put into gold went into Bitcoin, it talks about what the price would be, and it says it will be like $2,000. And then it says if people putting money into offshore investments, if 1% of that went into Bitcoin, then it would be $5,000. So it goes through all the different things that people are putting their money into, and if only a small amount of that money came out, it shows you what the price of Bitcoin would be, and it rapidly gets to $50,000. So I think that's going to happen over the long term.
I think you're right. For me, I've been saying this a long time, is what we call investor adoption. If the current investment system, imagine 1% of pension money can be invested in Bitcoin, what will happen then? We're not then we're talking crazy numbers. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to have investment products being developed in the current system that can invest in Bitcoin. We're already talking about Bitcoin ETFs. There's exchange traded notes in Switzerland. But the main thing is if one of the exchanges, I'm thinking the big commodities exchanges like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, if they list a Bitcoin contract, there's no limit to where this price can go, because you're immediately opening up to investment for millions and millions of customers, commodity trading advisors, hedge funds, everybody to own Bitcoin without a wallet.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yes, I'm very bullish long term.
Yeah. So, I think that's very, very interesting. Lorien, thank you so much for being on your show. We definitely would want to talk to you again if you want to.
Of course. I love your show. You guys are great. You're doing a great job spreading the news and information. So, I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much, Lorien. And that was very interesting. And I know that this video is going to be shared all over the world. So, Lorien, thank you. And it's wonderful, actually, to be talking to another Bitcoin believer.
There we go.
Yeah, I know. We're growing. More of us.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Cheerio then.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.